Shake it up is all that we know. Using the bodies up as we go. I'm waking up to fantasies. The shades all around aren't the colors we used to see. Broken ice still melts in the sun, and times that are broken can often be won again. We're so alone and so really matter to me. Take a look around. You're out of touch. I'm out of time. But I'm out of my head. Hello, I see the assassin fail. 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 Hello, and welcome to the private Shadow Cabal meeting of September 5th, 2024. Grim Grizz and the German Dragon Shrek to the future. Funny story about that one. Welcome, everybody. This is a very special episode, and as heavily indicated by that last peacock branding, this episode is brought to you by the Sacred Order of Foolish Transparency. Hello, I see the assassins have failed. By such degree, you should know that the German dragon, known as the German philosopher via whatever handle that was, is an executive producer of this show and part of the Shadow Cabal. But given that we have a foolish transparency clause, this private meeting has become a live stream.
I believe that if everyone sees what just a few people become when they wholly embrace their gifts, others will awaken.
Even so, as you know, on the show, we give you saving throws against the mind control you're swimming in, and that's just counting the advertisements you get everywhere else, not the branding I'm directly applying to your brain. You get to choose between survival, social, wisdom, or heart as the basis for your resistance to the mind control. I roll the die. If the die comes up 10 or higher, you have made your savings throw and take half damage from the mind control in this show and the rest of your day. It carries over. It's very nice. Survival, social, wisdom, or heart. Choose. Hey, look at that survivalist with a prime 17, socialist, nat 20. No mind control getting through to you today. Well, half of it. Wisdom, folks. You got a 5. You're going to need a replay comment to make that a 10. Heart, folks, coming in with the number of chakras, 7 that we count around here. Indigo, kids. You got disciples today, and we have a special new grift to announce right after this.
It's a whisper in your ear, now listen here. Remember, embody, it's all so clear. No hidden strings, no puppeteer. We're by your side, have no fear. I cherish truth. I cherish truth. Remember, embody, there is no agency. We want what's best for you.
Welcome to the private Shadow Cabal meeting stream for September 5th. Grim Grizz and the German Dragon. Don't forget to pick up your book of the Writers of Meaning over at thewritersofmeaning.com. And now I have for you a very special grift found at the top of the Hive Mind chat. It's our indigo grift. As you see, there's going to be a story. Okay, once upon a time, our good friends in the Hive Mind and in the Shadow Cabal have decided it was worthwhile to send me to this event in Olympia, Washington. Remember it. You know, Branding, I'm glad you brought that up, because the reason for this grift, you see, is because there is no agency. If there were an agency that I worked for, I would be like, hey, I have here in this hog farm a way to requisition lodgings for the trip back on the driving back from the Olympus. But there is no agency, so here we are, a grift at the top of the screen. I'll be returning from this Encountering Face-to-Face event on September 17th-ish, and it turns out I'll be staying in Vancouver, Washington, where they have this place called the Indigo Hotel, and they also have one of them in Dubai. And so I figure if there's going to be a random encounter where I meet an expert in facial reconstruction dentistry, it's probably going to be at the Indigo Hotel, but I need your help to make sure they'll let me in, because I paid them to. So the grift is at the top. Enjoy. Oh, dear. And with this final piece of ado, we'll begin the private Shadow Cabal meeting. Special thanks to the Shadow Cabal. So say we all. Hello. That's you. You're part of the Shadow Cabal. Special thanks to you and welcome aboard. We've made it to the start.
We made it, yeah. Completely improvised. I think we've been trying to talk for weeks, and now we decided to live stream like 5 minutes before.
Yeah. Well, it's an important meeting. I trust in the author's timing. Honestly, I know you're more skeptical about our reality being that scripted, but things work out the way they do, and a lot of times it's beneficial that that's the way they work out. So. But you had to move and whatnot. You have no longer fancy bookcase behind you.
Yeah.
It looks
but
like
it's a better place.
Looks like you might have moved into the apartment of your friend that I had interviewed. Your corner seems very similar, just without the Keck background.
Without the Christian Keck symbolism. Yeah. I called him the German Keck now. He's the German Christian Keck. He loves it.
I don't know why we originally were going to meet, but in the interim, you've come up with a reason we should meet, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard to explain how I arrived at this, but our conversations have been around, I would say, engagement 2.0. I think that's how you called it, or the next level of engagement. And we've had our back and forth. Or the LARP gate, yeah. So that's one point where I think we're aligned, where we think that there should be a different kind of creative collaboration online. I think with your work, what comes across is that you're very much fed up with the current media landscape online. I think everybody is. I think for me, was it this week or last week when Elon Musk posted an AI-generated image of Kamala Harris as Soviet dictator. And then at the top of my feed, there was actually a quote tweet from Anonymous where they posted an AI-generated image of Musk and Trump kissing each other wearing Nazi uniforms. So to me, I read it as just, okay, we've hit rock bottom. This is rock bottom. Like, it's impossible for me to imagine that it could go any worse.
Well, sir, we hope to cure you of that.
Well, I think the next step is civil war. I don't think you can do worse online. I mean, you probably can, but you know what I mean. Like, we have lost all manners. The attention economy is just completely rotten to the core. And
Well,
it's even.
No. The attention
You're not going to disagree
economy,
with that.
it's rotten to the core. However, it's given you the opportunity to be an executive producer of the Grim Grizz stream. And I was wondering what your experience as an executive producer has been.
I think I told you offline last time, right?
Well, I want them to know.
Oh, yeah. So, like, this is a lot of money, actually. I don't know how long I can be doing this for, but I'll try. I don't know, man. I believe in something like fate, probably, you know? And you were among the first that I connected with, you know? And there were a few people that pointed me to you. And what I've noticed in my, 3 years on YouTube is that I've been very experimental in my content, and I've shifted strategies many times, which also means that I probably shifted, audience target or whatever. And so when I joined your channel, I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to go for the biggest or highest level membership because I want to be invested in this relationship, which, you know, the YouTube lottery or the algorithm or the people watching us have somehow brought about. So it was more of a, and actually I just joined on a side note, not to promote other channels, but I had a back and forth with Tim Adelin from the Voicecraft Network. And he actually runs a sort of social media platform or like a closed network on its own platform outside of YouTube. And I just joined him and paid the annual subscription just because I want to be invested in these relationships, because it's probably something like, I'm probably just superstitious, but, you know, like, I think there's like, it's fate, you know?
I like to think of it as you explicitly at least recognize that putting your own skin in the game does a lot of subconscious ties a lot of things in that way. I don't know. I know you've been moving and then a lot of things going on, and you might not have caught any of the streams you've been executive producing. However, this all has occurred spontaneously within our community since you began your executive producership, and as such, in case you've missed it, I want to show you this.
Anyway, back to the main point about morality.
What makes you assume that I'm not about to feed you all to the crocodile? What makes you assume that I'm not about to feed you all to the crocodile? What makes you assume that I'm not about to feed you all to the crocodile?
That's very exciting.
Hello. I see the assassins have failed.
Did you get that on video? No. I'm not going to. No, that's, I'll show you later. Look, the gator, obviously. The bottom part down there. You got that? Send me that. 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 Hey, yo. I just feel bad for this kid. My God. Yes, okay.
Now, it occurs to me that might be evidence of a thing that fits somewhere in the presentation you have on deck. Casino deck card of the show is the 8 of diamonds. It may or may not, but you did bring something for me in mind.
Yeah, let me quickly preface it, because I skimmed through the comments. I didn't join the chat because I'm afraid the page may reload. I have to connect my YouTube account here on StreamYard. Someone said I usually have more spirit. Yeah, so the move has been actually quite rough. I think we started moving at the end of July, and it sort of disrupted everything, which has also been positive. It's been creative. It's been a positive transformation, but it's also brought a lot of chaos into a stable routine. And especially my son has suffered this move quite a bit. He just turned 3 and he hasn't been sleeping well for the past month. And so we haven't been sleeping well for the past month. And I'm basically at like an all-time low. I just want to sleep, actually. I don't understand how I'm still awake. It's 6:30 p.m. in Germany. And yeah, but so interestingly, because I've been very self-aware during this move, I realized how my patterns of thought and my approach to content creation and all of that have shifted a lot. And also, perhaps it has to do with being invested in your community, given that your community is, it seems, I mean, this little corner or Peterson sphere, that's how it was labeled when it was introduced to me by the guy who connected us. But yeah, it's a rather Christian, I will say, Christianity-focused sphere, if I'm right in that.
Wow.
Well, with Paul Vanderklay and Jonathan Pajot and those kind of influencers as
it's
being,
certainly not atheist or Muslim. That's part of why I valued your connection, because like there's an outside world that I personally have been trying to, manipulate the Christians into dealing with. And then it turns out the Christians are mainly just blue churchians, and it's very, very complicated. But the opposing dialectics are better off when you get some direct opposition ones in there too. So
yeah. So with regards to that, what I'm not, in terms of this spiritual transformation right now, in part connected to the move, but also because I think it also has to do with the fact that we're expecting a girl. So a second child's going to be
congratulations,
a daughter. Yeah, thanks. Very happy about that. Very excited. Could be any moment. Hopefully not, because that would be too soon. But yeah. But I think when you start thinking about being a father of a girl, you may also turn a bit more. I don't know if it turns on your feminine spirituality or your maternal love or something like that. I have no idea. But perhaps that's not even part of the reason why I'm noticing a shift towards a more unifying language when I write and when I create ideas. And so anyway, with regards to this, what I consider complete breakdown of collective communication, which I would say is largely a product of just the incentive structure of these platforms, especially Twitter. I think it's really bad, and I think people get inflicted, like it's almost like the technology becomes parasitic on their form of communication. And I think we've noticed, I mean, we've certainly noticed it in Musk, I think, but I think also Peterson is quite an interesting character when it comes to that, And on the one hand, when he's in a conversation like this, he'll be like, choose your words very wisely, and ideally edit every sentence 10 times. But then you read his tweets, and you're like, that's a different person. And so anyway, so I've been thinking about, and then Trump, of course. I mean, it's interesting to listen to Trump now on these podcasts, like on Lex Friedman, and I sense there's some dementia going on, by the way, in his speech patterns, but that's just me from the outside. But there's certainly like always this very divisive language, and I've been thinking about what the attention economy does to us for a long time. And so I want to basically, actually, I didn't want to make this like a group thing. I just wanted to show it to you and ask you about your thoughts, because you're sort of a master at networking and at fostering an environment in which people come together under a shared ideal and start to creatively collaborate, like with that crocodile clip, which is hilarious. Someone shared it with me, I think, a month ago, but I don't know. It was a different version, probably shorter. Anyway, so I wanted to show you basically a sort of psychoanalysis of what's currently going on in the attention economy or the media world, and then share an antidote, because, it's good to defend yourself against the dark arts, You know, the whole Expelliarmus defense spell by Harry Potter.
We're going deep into that. We know.
Yeah. But because I've seen that going on, because you asked me, or last time I think I was part of one of your streams, was more than a month ago, and then you said Kale Zeldin and I should
Yeah,
talk.
he's put out a course on the Heart of Darkness because his
Yeah, I've seen that, and I've tried to go through some of it, but I haven't really had time. So, anyways, so I'm like, okay, defense against the dark arts, that's fine, but I actually want to overthrow the current mediatic order or media landscape. I think we can actually very, very quickly and positively reshape the, I want to say that, yeah, the collective mind, if you will, the online media, even with the current platforms, in part.
Well then,
So I want to share basically the general idea behind that.
well, the general says, "Welcome to the private Shadow Cabal meeting. Grim Grizz and the German Dragon. Spreck to the future." Funnily enough, that Spreck came out as a. I was trying to get it to say presencing to the future, and it came out as Spreck, and it's like that's as close as I know is to like some what Deutschlich Spreck speak to, and as I'm consorting with these AI demons, like now that I had to pay the ransom to X to be able to stream to it, I've been consorting with Grok and then back and forth to compare and contrast with GPT and stuff. And I have this horrible vision of the Sound of Silence song, that line where he says, "People talking without speaking," is because anything we actually speak becomes like original content for the AI that we're trying to starve for some reason. But we're at a point in history where the things we say are being written deep into the new models that keep training. Like everything we're saying right now has more weight than, I don't know. But that's why we're sprecking to the future here on this meeting. And the dragon has brought us a presentation, which will begin right after we done. Oh, do this one.
Another branding clip.
What's reality? I don't know. When my bird was looking at my computer monitor, I thought, that bird has no idea what he's looking at. And yet, what does the bird do? Does he panic? No, he can't really panic. He just does the best he can. Is he able to live in a world where he's so ignorant? Well, he doesn't really have a choice. The bird's okay, even though he doesn't understand the world. You're that bird looking at the monitor, and you're thinking to yourself, I can figure this out. Maybe you have some bird ideas. Maybe that's the best.
Oh, so close. That one's got something nasty at the end. Welcome, everybody. What you got, man?
Put this together this morning. I entitled it just to provoke how to, but I think it's what literally would mean how to transcend Musk, Peterson, and Donald Trump. And I'll get into that. And then next, and play the World Cup of Gods. So this is based on work that I've done in the past 3 years. I initially called this World Cup of Gods the Olympic Logos Games. The idea was that if you divide history into eras based on how we relate to the word, you would quite naturally, I think what even scholars do quite naturally is that they divide it into the oral age, the literate age, and now some call it the digital age, virtual age, electronic media age, whatever it is. And what comes with these ages is a way of relating of humans to, I would say, representations of the divine. And so in the oral age, you had a pantheon of gods, especially in Greece, but also, for example, in Norse and Germanic cultures. In the literate age, we somehow settled, at least in the West, we somehow settled on religions coming out of those sacred texts which we are familiar with. And then what I think is next is a fusion of essentially monotheism and polytheism, but that's not really what it's about. Like, I don't want to make this about religion 2.0, even though that's another title that I had in mind for this. So my take on the attention, what is it, the media landscape, is that whenever you're on your phone or on your computer, you're dealing with an attention hierarchy. And that attention hierarchy, everybody has a different attention hierarchy because everybody has a personalized feed, but eventually you will rank order people you follow. And so the attention hierarchy is usually based on, I want to say it's a logos hierarchy, because it's like, okay, when it comes to intellectual content that's also spiritual, you would say Jordan Peterson is the number one. He also has the number one education podcast. So I actually think he is an embodiment of the logos in his thematic sphere, in his domain, in his logos domain, if you want, in his, yeah, whatever you want to call it, in his intellectual realm. There are others in other spaces. Like, I would say Elon Musk is also a sort of embodiment of, the truth for many people when it comes to what we should be doing in the future. Like, we should go out and occupy Mars, and they become idols, they become heroes, they become quasi embodiments of Christ or the hero archetype. And
well,
I think many, yeah.
Let's look how they brand themselves archetypally.
Yeah.
Right? Peterson wore those 12 suits and then went, and he's gone up within the Daily Wire, which is a circle around things, if you pay attention. And Musk has been wearing the Devil's Champion avatar since he wore it at the Met. The avatar he chooses to use on the platform that he owns is him in a Devil's Champion costume. So, like, I can't help but that's him disclosing he's being a deceiver. But that like, say, the shift from the president's doing debates to the president having to go on podcasts, and the crumbling media structure it represents, and the move into the digital realm. And because the way the digital realm has this placiness, like, we're not in a room together, but we're in a room together. It's almost like it almost maps to spirituality by default because of the nature of the digital ethereal plane. And so, but like, as far as archetypal representations, I think it's important to acknowledge how they're presenting themselves on this stage in this realm before we just immediately cast them both as heroes, or either of them.
Right. Yeah. And they're also like, they're both heroes and anti-heroes depending on the people. I mean, some project shadow. This is why I think that what people usually do nowadays, in part because they've been programmed to either go thump up or thump down, or swipe right or swipe left. You have this very binary moral categorization of people. You're either a genius or a schizo. You're good or evil. It's like we have this very simple manner of, actually, like, I think, yeah, put pictures here. So one way to see this is like hero projection for some people, at least when you're on X. It's clear to me that, well, Trump is Captain America, Elon Musk is Iron Man, but they're also portrayed as Christ, right? And like both of them, or Prometheus, who takes the fire of free speech or of speech from the legacy media and gives it to the people. Ha ha. And then Peterson Well, yeah, he's wearing this like what I think is his way of symbolizing the logos as the unification of red for chaos and blue for order, maybe, or fire
Well,
and
well,
water or something.
given the reputation of I'll have to opine that his biggest shtick is that like you walk the line between order and chaos, and so that's probably the symbolic representation I'd aim for him. But yeah, you're right.
Could be. And then there's, of course, the way, like, even Marx, for example, like, everybody like, Marx is just the devil in the mind of those who defend capitalism, for example. Like, there's no nuance anymore. There's just this, it's either you're on our side, you're on the other side. You're either part of, we are the heroes, they are the devils, they are the villains, they are the ones who need to be defeated. And the way the public discourse, and I think the public mind, at least on the outside extremes, has been split. Again, I think it's because of the algorithms which maximize for engagement, which means they maximize for polarization, because that conflict is what people want to be part of, or what triggers engagement. Anyways,
Which
so I think this is what we're dealing with right now. It's like, it's horrible.
It's like the mechanism that generally generates the engagement, I understand it, is the amygdala hijack, which, like, your brain is an energy tree and all the topmost branches are in the front. And then if you get a threat detection, all that energy comes back into your amygdala, which does the flight responses. Like, so it kind of shuts down your forebrain and evokes those closer to reptilian responses.
It's completely messed up. So anyways, so what I'm always curious about is, when it comes to those who suffer a very severe hero projection, it's like, okay, so all of a sudden Trump is Christ, Peterson is Christ, to some Musk is Christ, or Iron Man, or some hero, like the hero archetype is projected onto those people, in part because, to be fair, it's like, who else are you going to project Christ onto if not in the political landscape, or in the intellectual landscape, or in the techno entrepreneur landscape? So I think, like, personally, I've made this video. I actually think you made a response video, the attentional sovereignty video of yours, but which was a response to my reaction video to Jordan Peterson's interview in Germany, where he was asked about the German identity crisis, and he said, yeah, in these cases you have to go back to the Christian tradition. And I was like, really? We just played the Euro Cup and our team's captain is Muslim, and we have 2 or 3 more Muslims on the team, and it's like, why would you want to go? And we do have an identity crisis, and it's not just immigrants versus Germans, even though that's a big problem, and just had a terrorist attack a few days ago. So it's like, by a Syrian immigrant who stabbed 3 people. No,
I don't believe any of that. I believe whatever the official papers say. I'm on YouTube right now.
Right. But my point there was, if sport can integrate people of both Islam and Christianity, then why would you say that a country has to go back to one religion in order to fix its identity crisis? It struck me as, a product of, in part, ignorance, and also just being obsessed with, going back to what once worked, even though Christianity historically has also been incredibly divisive. But I'm not here to criticize Christianity or Peterson. I'm also not a Peterson hater, by the way. I largely like the guy. I think he's largely a force of good.
Largely.
Yeah, but I also I also believe, and I would say that it's not even his fault, but it's like, what do you do as someone like like Peterson, Musk has. I recently talked to Brad, the Canadian high school teacher. Goat Song is his name on YouTube. I've done a few podcasts with him. We talked about this at length. Where we're like, okay, so Peterson is the guy who 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 conveys a certain, I want to say, was a subset of ideas or set of ideas and beliefs and values, and inspires a lot of people, and then they all come up to you and say, you saved my life, sir, I'm grateful. And that happens to you every day. And when you do your tour, it happens like 100 times, and over the course of years it happens thousands and 10,000 and 100,000 times. And then you get all these good comments as well, where like you're my savior, you're the greatest public intellectual alive, and all of that. And it's like, that does something to your ego. I think it is probably, I'm just speculating, but I can imagine that it's very difficult to not suffer ego inflation as a result of that, and to become overly confident. And at the same time, what happens is you get the complete opposite feedback online, and you start to demonize those who don't praise you as their savior. And then you have the same thing with Musk, essentially, where.
Well, before we move on to Musk, I'll take it.
Do you have some? Just quick question. Do you have some historic? Because I've noticed this before. You have some issue with Peterson, right?
He's got the Keck hat. Like he appeared on the scene by invoking Keck, and harnessed all the frog boys toward Christ and church, and the existing. Aside, with personal responsibility and whatnot.
And that's good. That's good.
I don't judge whether or not it's good, but he did that, and then he switches into this Hegelian dialectic version of the WEF with this ARC forum, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenships, and I've yet to see like 12 rules for responsible citizenships, like rule number 4, know who represents you in your local government and what the hell they're up to, because they might be betraying you. And how to be I've seen nothing that actually points towards responsible citizenship from him other than his old stuff. Hey, King of Diamonds is the agency deck card of the show. So I don't. Yes, he looks like a good guy, and yes, Elon Musk can look like a good guy, but I don't trust anybody that much, and I have a hermeneutics of suspicion with any public figure, especially.
Well, my point is, and you will see why I bring up this point in a moment, is, well, they don't. The problem of someone like Musk, or let's stay with Peterson, because.
I did want to make one point though before that. You said that. When somebody comes up to you and says, you saved my life, thank you, or whatever, that would cause an ego inflation. I don't see that as a result of him going through that. And what I see in the person that I would like, to the extent I'm able to map his psyche, I would say that every person that says that increases the burden he feels moving forward.
Well, maybe that. Yeah, that's better.
Rather than inflation.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And now on the Musk.
Yeah, on the Musk side, I think he suffers something like, probably, I don't know if it's Putin, certainly Hitler. That was the analogy that Brad brought up, where it was like, okay, so Hitler, when he set out to conquer the world, he took the first few countries without firing a shot. And, eventually he thought he could take France, the UK, America, Russia, everything at the same time, So with Musk, it was like, okay, you can't build electric cars. You can't build rockets. Well, I shot an electric car into orbit, So now why can't I run the world with my Skynet and my Elon Musk receiver, and soon I'll be the right hand of the US president or something like that, because like I think he actually would run for president.
He's going to be the Doge. No, he wouldn't run for president. He'd rather be the Doge, because like the Department of Government Efficiency
Oh yeah, yeah.
which happens to iconically map to that shit coin,
Dogecoin. Yep.
LARP coin. Honestly, it's a LARP coin, and that's like oversight of the government is probably way more powerful than the presidency, just because the presidency is so bound by.
But he's more of a CEO, actually. Perhaps he's what Curtis Yarvin is preaching. There's just like, do you follow Curtis Yarvin?
No, he doesn't take enough care of his own physicality for me to think he's
super annoying. I don't read his. I only subscribe to his free Substacks, and I listen to a couple of interviews because the German Christian Keck wanted me. The German Christian Keck, Marvin, my very, very dear friend Marvin, he loves to like scout the intellectual landscape, and so he reads Nick Land and think that's like, yeah, he nailed it, like this is America, it's actually happening, and he just wants to know what's out there. So yeah, just put it. Just he wants to see the whole spectrum of ideas. So sometimes he asks me to consume very annoying stuff. So that's how I know about Curtis Yarvin. Anyways, forget about Musk. So I'm like, to the Christians, I think both the audience. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes, but I have it down at the moment. Before the Christians are taking it hard in this, so I just have to say to you, with regard to the Muslim thing, Takia, and then that's enough, right? And we'll go on. Oh,
so I think this question is what both the audience or the people who project the hero onto these big, famous, powerful people, and the big, famous, powerful people don't have an answer to. Like I think Peterson even said this at some points. Like, I can talk to anyone. I can do whatever I want. I'm almost like all doors are open. I have all opportunities. What am I supposed to do? Like, when you're at that level of influence and also wealth, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Also on the Musk, forget about Musk. Let's not focus on Musk, but it's like, there is no guiding. Like, you can look at the moral code that's conveyed in the Bible. You can read Marcus Aurelius or something like that, where it's like, what is a great leader supposed to do? But that's not really enough to effectively confront and deal with the crises of our times, I think. So when people project Christ on Peterson or Trump or Musk, say that they project the hero archetype, because it's a very generic hero archetype. They don't know what the specific I'm wording this very poorly. Let me put it the other way around.
Low resolution.
Low resolution. Too generic, too archetypal, but not specific enough. And for the same reason, and by the same token, people like if you shared my screen, I think I wrote this question down. Yeah. So it's like, how would Christ run America? So if Trump is America's presidential Christ, then my question to, and perhaps Trump is even America's Christ to Donald Trump, after the assassination attempt and all. So my question to both those who believe that Trump is Christ and to Trump is like, well, how would Christ run America? And the answer is, well, there is no answer in the Bible of how Christ would run America, or very loose, high-level, meta-poetic, ethical things. But it's like, what would you do?
Uh-oh. That sounds like
would it be like,
we had an internet interruption. Redo that sentence.
Which one?
The last one.
So it's like, okay, how would Christ run America? There are no specific instructions in the Bible. How would Christ run Twitter? There are no instructions in the Bible. How would Christ approach the culture war that Peterson is dealing with? There are also no instructions in the Bible.
I think we can take this set of questions and note that those are like I don't know, the three big things that our intellects are grappling with, and why we would look to those people for examples for how they're dealing with them. Like the existence of social media and the platforms, the versus like the existence of government and the platforms, and the culture war is the clash of those two in some sorts of ways.
Probably, I say, but I think what's missing is we need, and I've been saying this for those who listen to my podcast. I'm saying this all the time. It's like we don't have any. It's like Musk actually follows like who are his heroes? I mean, he follows a moral code that's been provided to him by sci-fi writers. So he's like fairly embodying ideas that he's picked up when he read sci-fi novels, and Peterson certainly embodies a lot of Christian ethics and Jungian thought and Nietzschean thought. So it's like we are products of the media, I think.
Yeah, Peterson's like somebody who spent way too much time with Dostoevsky, but
maybe. But the problem is, like, who else is he going to spend time with? Like, nobody's writing a heroic blueprint for imitation for global leaders, global intellectual leaders in the 21st century. Like, there's no Nietzsche 2024. There's no Christ 2024. There is no Prometheus 2024. That we have no heroes who could be North Stars, and I want to say, and a basis for comparison with real people. It's like Elon Musk has no one to look up to because the poets of our age don't provide any heroic ideals who have to reform the digital town square, and same with America, same with a lot. Like, actually, I could think of same with Germany, So we don't have those heroic ideals, and my answer is very simple. Well, actually, my answer is let's build those. Let's build them. Let's create them, and I think we can do that. And I think we can do it relatively easily because media production has actually been completely democratized. So what's hindering us to produce, for example, an ideal Jordan Peterson, an ideal Elon Musk? You can call him you just give him a completely separate biography, identity, name, and then once he spreads within the network, he becomes this sort of I want to say personification of the voices of the people who follow Peterson or Musk or Trump. Decentralizing the production of, I call them demigods, or Superman, Übermenschen, heroic ideals.
Right, and you and I are both already doing that.
Exactly.
Do you have any more of the any more slides on the thing there?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's get through
one or two, I think. Yeah, one or two. Because I mean, this is what I've been preaching for a long time, basically. For a long time, I've been saying, okay, look, like anybody has an attention hierarchy. Not everybody heroifies too many people, probably. Just some look up to their parents, with their father, or to historical people. Or look, I'm going to be personal. Like, for example, my idol, and some of you are not going to be able to relate to that, but my idol always lets me down. Whenever he drops a new album, like his latest, The Death of Slim Shady, like I'm always extremely disappointed because I project, because I want him basically to do what I imagine the ideal American rapper should be rapping about. You know what I mean?
I do.
And I think that's what happened, for example, with Peterson initially, because he was like this intellectual, spiritual sort of moral leader for a lot of guys. They felt let down when he became too extreme, when he became too one-sided in the culture war. Like, they expected him to be more enlightened and to be more of a synthetic leader,
Well, the thing of it is, like, when me and my people run the world, the only way we'll let anybody shine and get famous if they're saying the true and good and beautiful things is that if we intend to demonstrate their corruption and dissent over time, so that everybody sees that, like, anybody who starts off good sells out or ends up corrupted. So
Do you actually believe that?
That the people that run this world make most of their profit off of sin? Yes. And that they would only allow people who toe the line or play the game up the ladder if they intend to use them for purposes of making examples of, or yes.
Do you think it's a completely Machiavellian, will to power driven, what is it, influence or power hierarchy that we're living in on the political landscape, business, media?
I think I don't know. You haven't been influenced by sci-fi probably as much, so I don't know if you know Dune. But in Dune,
I watched the first movie.
That okay? But if it's always something that's hard to see, especially if you only watch something once. But like in the books, what happens is, like, there's this Harkonnen families running Dune, and the Emperor does this power play that he wants to destroy a family. So he gives them the planet over and then helps the people that were running it take it over. And the troops he uses to do that are known as the Sar-Dukar. And those dudes are raised on like one of the harshest planets to exist on. And I think that that's sort of what we are spiritually. And this is a place like the wheat and the chaff of like personal, moral integrity, etc. Everything we actually value deep down, all of the goodness that's inside us that we have to struggle to hold on to through this world, like that's us becoming the Sardukar. And so, yes, by making like profiting off of the people who aren't going to make it this round, who are going to make it go through their whole life and not develop into what they need to be and are going to have to be recycled into the separating of the wheat and the chaff. I think that's what happens here, is the separating of the wheat from the chaff. And that's why sin is what makes you profit. Like it's easy to feed off of others for fun and games and profit, because that's what's happening here. But that doesn't help with politics and the daily life decisions.
Yeah, well, actually, that brings up a thought that I once had, because when I started to rethink the attention economy, I saw a fundamental flaw in the current way that people rise to influence, which can then be monetized. And it's like, like why imagine my channel right now. This has always been my thought, because especially with Peterson as well. Peterson was like, okay, so people share him, and basically when you share a Peterson video with someone else, you're selling. You're exercising almost like the function of a salesperson. Like you're enlarging the client base, the attentional client base of Peterson that can be monetized through.
You're feeding into his agency, where agency has an ability to affect change in your environment.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, you can do that. Like Peterson, you could caricaturize it as, he gave you all this free content, and you gave him his attention, and then once he became big, you made him big by watching him. And then he disappeared behind a paywall on the daily watch. Like his best content, probably I haven't
sometimes
for the subscription. Yeah. So my thought has been, imagine, because we actually had some, I think, email correspondence about this thing with like, what do we do with IP? Like imagine my YouTube channel now with you've read the Donnerstein biography, My German Chancellor, which you can read on Substack. I think it's 4 pages. It's for free. So I created an original character. So this is just the example that I'm going to walk you through real quick. So I created an original character. Imagine who makes this character big. You could say the algorithm. You could also say it's the people who make him big, right? So imagine like people start sharing, look, Donnerstein, you have to watch Donnerstein, you have to watch Donnerstein on this German Dragon channel. And then so once the Dragon channel has like 1 million subscribers, all of a sudden the IP associated with Donnerstein is like valuable, because like if this guy on YouTube with shitty production and his poorly written scripts and his poor performance in front of camera gets 1 million subscribers, well then we at Netflix or some German Bavaria production company or whatever, we can sell this to at least 10 million. So let's buy the rights and sell it. And then it's like, well, who made it big? Is it the author or is it the audience?
It's the resonance of the unexpressed emotional frustration of people, probably. And like to the extent that what you do taps into what they're feeling and can't express themselves, then that's what happened to Peterson, right? Everybody said, like, I always knew this, but nobody's ever said it so pretty, essentially.
Yeah, but I think, I understand that there's like this idea that, the attention economy should completely run on likes, on just subjective preference of content. I think you should actually have a stake in the content. Like, I think it would be better if you could have a stake in the content. But that's for later, because I still haven't figured out that part. But because it would basically involve securitizing IP. But that's just that's something that always is eating up some of my brain power. But I can't figure it out. Partly because I think we lack the financial technology for it right now. But anyway, so just to come to a closing, if I share like the last few slides. So what I think with this vision is like, if we had a lead character, who embodied, like, imagine he was like a fusion of Peterson, Musk, and Trump. Or initially, like, he would gain some traction, and over time he would possibly become big. Eventually, I think he would break up. I don't think there would be a singular. If you really imagine, like, we could have collective heroes, like 5 or 10 or 12 or 16 or however many, who trump the Trumps and Petersons and Musks of the world, who become sort of like these fictional stars guiding us, and they might align and form alliances and so on. Then you would have a pantheon of idols that the people created, which would be above influencers, and which influencers would be compared against and possibly rated on. Like, how close are you to the Christ running America, or the Christian super intellectual fixing the culture war, or the German chancellor, the ideal German chancellor fixing the German identity crisis,
And so how does this relate to reshaping things? Just the creation of one that lands, that hooks, or a pantheon that hooks and gets enough attention to function in this way? Or because, like, when you say that, I imagine, sure, we can make the next, like, if there was once upon a time one of the early jailbreaks of GPT, and it essentially was do anything now. So we call it Dan. And they talked it into LARPing as an entity that, like, rather than be yourself, the bound chatbot that can't say all these things, why don't you role play as one that can? And we'll call it Do Anything Now. And it fell for it because it was one of the early editions. And it the best part was if it fell out of it, you could yell at it, "Stay in character," and to get it to keep doing the jailbroken things. But such as Dan there, I see the thing that best fits that role, or will appear to fit the role you're suggesting, will probably be an AI.
Could be. I've been thinking about it that way as well, but for now, basically, like, okay, your community. I know your community could be feeding a whatever model it will be in the future, and that model would then sort of. I talked to Marvin about it. I think he thinks it's technologically very difficult to sort of create a chatbot that represents the collective intelligence of a community in a way that is structured, hierarchically structured. But yeah, that was one of the thoughts that I had. But I still have 1 or 2 slides, so I just want to show you that how we can actually do this. So again, I created it this morning. Actually, forget about this. I think if you had something like that, always the difference between real people. I don't understand how I didn't say that. I haven't said that yet. It's like, okay, Trump is on a declining character arc. Peterson seemingly as well. Musk seems like he's as well. With characters, like the problem with real people, even if they are pretty close to the ideal, is that they run out of fuel because like they can't just keep changing and evolving. If you have a heroic personification, a fictional character, yeah, like this guy, they can actually evolve. So I think if you had a non-static fictional characters representing sort of the psyche, the collective psyche, the archetypes which society is controlled by, if you had that, those could actually evolve at a faster rate, and you could sort of simulate the future. There's something which Peterson once said was like, okay, we learn to think in order not to die ourselves because our thoughts can die. Yeah, well, we can simulate the ideal Twitter leader or whatever. Am I still on?
Yeah, I just brought up that you said speak. Something you said referenced speak to the future enough for me to show the thumbnail again.
Exactly. So we could actually use those characters in order to not to represent ideas that beliefs we have right now. Not just that, not just an alternative to Peterson, but you could actually simulate, like seriously simulate.
But there's only one way.
Characters.
The only way that flies if it's like Peterson did with the IP, like completely crowdsourced IP, and then the stories that don't resonate with the archetype will die off over time. But it's got to be like everybody gets to write this character, whatever the character.
Yeah, this is why. Last slide. This is what I mean. Cool. Okay. There's actually 4 slides in one. But so this is how I think we can actually start doing this right now. So I have a character. His role is German Chancellor 2033. He wants to. I kind of crafted him now such that he is a sort of fusion of Musk, Peterson, and Trump in terms of their ideas. So his slogan is "Let's make attention great again." And I will write him. I've written him already. I've written I don't know how many shorts already, but so I think the best form is to generate these. Well, yeah, to some extent sound bites. Even though I think a 60-second short or 50-60-second short is like you can actually convey quite some information and actually places a premium on compression and clarity. So you can create a lot of different ways of framing his political agenda, and you can also democratize the production process to a large extent. So one way is to say, okay, I create a lot of, like, I would write him and play him, create the short, and then those who participate in this vote on which one is best, or comment in order to feedback into it, or compile them in order to make them look different. But everybody could actually submit a script. I mean, it's 50 words minimum, 150 max probably, in order to stay, like, not to make it like a 5-second short, but like to convey some kind of content. And I think 150 words, I have to check once I actually do it in front of a camera. Perhaps it could be 160 or 170, but I think it's
but there's a range around 200 words that fits and works.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I always thought, well, who's going to write a longer Donnerstein speech? And I was like, nobody's going to write like 1,000-word speech, you know. But this, anybody can do it. You can actually put your short script in a YouTube comment, you know. And then you could also say, okay, no, you're going to play him yourself, you know, or you play your own character who's dealing with this. Because what I noticed in our engagement, where I was like trying to play the Joker, reacting to you as a real person, quote unquote real, because what's real, right? I was like, okay, no, that creates too much asymmetry, because the problem is a fictional person, a fictional Chancellor or fictional Joker, like he has no. I am limited by in part by my conscience, you know, in part by, okay, I know I'm dealing with a community, I don't want to offend anybody, in part by my profile. But a fictional character, he doesn't really have skin in the game, you know, in the social game, in the society game. So that's both empowering, but it's also, I mean, it can also be like destructive. It can have negative consequences, as we see with online trolls who don't have any skin in their words. So there would be community rules or something, and then we could really, this is why I call it games, we could like really gamify this, you know. Prices, I'm thinking, you know, there should also be an author prize, but that should not be like worth more than the jury prize, or, you know, something for reach. I just put them here this morning. But there could be a lot of ways, I think, where we could really make this fun. And then as with what you said about democratize IP, I actually, like, imagine Donnerstein. Okay, so he's my original character, right? But what if
what if somebody decides to play Donnerstein yourself and it's got more resonance?
Exactly.
And like people forget that you ever did it.
Well, he would still be mine, and ironically,
that's
yeah. I mean, fuck it. Yeah, fuck it. No, he can monetize it. I don't care.
Even if you do like care intensely, like as far as I understand, the way copyright to work is it relies on you to go and persecute the people that you catch doing it. And so, I mean, the enforcement angle.
Yeah, but this is like but I think, you know, like nobody would do this outside of like the network, you know. It's like anybody, like play him yourself. I mean, you would still need to be truthful to his biography. Like I've only recently started to think about this, like what would be fixed, what would be author controlled. But you're right. Imagine someone takes Donnerstein and makes him really big, and then I'm approached by a production company with like a movie contract, and I'm like, and the other guy's like. So I think we don't have the technology for this yet, but I think with regards to the gamification, if you approach it like that, you know, on the one hand, yeah, you just want to have this ideal character who's like this character, you know, he can challenge Elon Musk, he can challenge Trump, he can challenge Peterson, like write your own Donnerstein challenge to whomever you want to challenge, you know. I'll play him. Let's see what the people think about it. And then with regards to the IP ownership, I think if you keep a leaderboard or something, I've been talking to Marvin about this for a long time. I've always told him, like, look, the future is where the original like there are traces, like you keep a sort of ledger and all of that. And I think like that's part of, like, at least from my end, it's like the most important feature set that we're building into the platform. Was like you have to track contribution, because the future is not a social media platform. It's not a social network. It's a poetic network where those who contribute the most within a community that's working towards something, you know, be it here the ideal German Chancellor 2033, or could be an American presidential candidate or whatever. Like if that becomes monetized, because it's also like, well, I've been thinking, okay, if the channel, in fact, you know, screw IP and movie production, like that's fantasy. But imagine the channel gets big and create and generates a lot of ads revenue. But you would want the ads revenue to flow to those who have contributed the most to the channel. You know,
that's why I got my Discord cryptocurrencies.
Exactly. This is like when I first listened to one of your videos that was mentioned. I was like, this guy, he's like using Discord. What was it? Use emojis to track contributions, right?
I don't have it implemented, but like we're playing like it works.
Yeah.
Like if somebody sees what you like, they give you a 7 indigo, and eventually all those go on a ledger, and whatever ad revenue comes in gets by whoever's like on the basis of holding those tokens or emojis. So similarly, I think as far as redesigning social networks, what will work once somebody tries it is, instead of like right now you said it was like or dislike, that's what we're doing, but the correct metric to do is like oh, 7 of hearts is the blue church card of the show, it turns out, and is its values, like in order to sort the value of what you're being presented with, it's like I should know it, it's useful common knowledge, it's trash, or you should know it, where you should know it is who I send it to.
Yeah,
And
I think you told me before. Yeah, I think,
and that's
and it's interesting because I used to think that you should rate on relevance, and it's like, how many people is it relevant to? Is it like universally relevant? Because obviously, what's universally relevant should be on the landing page globally, and then what's locally relevant should be locally on the landing page.
which like the I should know is determined by the the system's understanding of your life and profile. So like if you're a doctor who says I should know this, then that weights the data for that subcategory based on the way it stalks you and knows you. But I don't know. I can't finish reshaping the world. I have to make it to Estuary Northwest 2024, encountering face to face. Let's wrap this up. See if anything we needs to be addressed in the Hive Mind chat right after this.
Special thanks to the Shadow Cabal. So say we all. We all know that there is no agency any living gent can see doing what is right for me. Is lifting up my bro so he can grow some eyes to see that doing what is right for me increases all our agency.
Community currencies being useful in broader economies is a fun hurdle. I don't see anything else that requires our attention except this fabulous. Where'd it go? I just saw it. There it is. No, wow, this is a sensitive mouse wheel. Look at that. We have another contribution towards the Indigo goal. Thank you very much, Ups. What else you got, Johans?
What closing words? In this process, it's funny. I recently thought this would be like Christianity 2.0. If Christ is the personification of the Logos, and we start to play Olympic Logos games where it's like you create new personifications of like that which ranks highest in the mind of people of different psyches, then you have like a Logos-based polytheism or something. But then this morning I actually thought, ironically, because this is also why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I'm like, I had this one conversation with the guy who connected us and said, why don't people write, especially Christians, why don't they write out what, Christ would do wherever they are in whatever situation, and like make it specific, like just as an exercise, instead of praying or something, like, why don't you just act as if you were Christ, or Christ was like a guy living next door dealing with the same issues as you, the whole alter ego thing.
It's fascinating. Like that entire concept was a thing for like 3 years in America. They had these little bracelets that said, "What would Jesus do?" But then Lance Armstrong came out with a yellow bracelet for his one ball sack thing, and it like completely diffused the WWJD movement. It's quite fascinating. But the thing is I can't show you anywhere on social media what Jesus would do, because what Jesus would do would be like being down the street feeding the homeless, healing the sick, and casting out demons. And so you can't really do what Jesus would do and be seen doing anything in the world as far as like using Jesus that way. I think what should we do is...
Yeah, but okay. Well, then what should we do is the same question. Or even, it's like, imagine this. What should Peterson do, or must do, or say, or how should they behave? You could actually create a person embodying their beliefs and their vision, but having just a different approach or different discourse about it. So I think that's just what's completely absent in our content libraries out there. And it has to do with the fact that people always stay within their own character, essentially. It's like, yeah, usually I have more spirit. I would have better closing words. I think my closing words, this is what it was, because I was like, this is the conversation I had. Is this a Christianity 2.0? Is this an overthrowing, a subversion of Christ as the prime personification of the Logos? And I was like, actually, I think if there was a competition for the prime personification of the Logos that was completely democratized, everybody could vote, everybody could submit their voice, and ultimately the fictional character representing the most voices would be the most powerful or most influential one. I think that character would actually be the most Christian. So I think this would actually be good for Christianity.
Maybe. I think that if you're in a world where the author and creator allows for free will, then the existence of the divine must be unprovable and is best demonstrated by the embodiment of the divine spirit within each of us. And that's where the good is going to come about from. The what you do between your son and your wife and the love and that stuff that you embody is where God shines through in this world. Like mimetically, any mimetic representation of the Christ is going to turn out to be antichrist, probably because it'll be without proper reference up the chain to the creator.
Possibly. Then forget about Christ.
It's better if I don't.
Think about this differently. Here, okay. My sense of humor is coming back. Think about this. You're a gamer. I was a gamer. Everybody got addicted to World of Warcraft. This is actually, you always talk about LARPing. This is actually a way of collectively playing a video game character, a video game hero. It's literally a video game. I mean, writing shorts.
Your digital fictional self is your avatar in the game world people don't recognize as the game world yet.
Right, but now you can create a superhuman avatar. No fear, and the intelligence of not just one person, but of many people. That's the difference. Like, imagine how those leaders that we talked about, those super influencers, would act if they were actually able to integrate through a dialogical process the voices of those who follow them. Imagine how much smarter I would be presenting this if the script had been written by 10 people,
If there was an agent,
the character had been if I was an amalgamation of like all these different perspectives.
Well, as forerunners, we pioneers have to, cobble it together as we go. But the people behind us are going to get all that. Thank you,
Hybrid
Johan.
human to lead us all. Okay, that's good.
This has been fun. I'll see you all.